This is Brian, ScreenFiles.com in review. And what I'm looking at today is 2019's Bumperkleef, or Tailgate in this country, directed by Ludovic. And this movie is interesting to me. First off, because I watched it on Vudu, and the only version that was available was a dubbed version. Typically, I hate dubbed movies. For the reason being, even if the dubbing is done well, for the most part it is in Bumperkleef, but the thing is, the things people say don't always match the people who are talking. And the voices just don't sync well with the people who are supposedly talking. It's really odd, but I think the human animal has a way to detect whether or not voices fit the people who speak them. And oftentimes for me, with dubbed movies, the voices do not fit the people who are talking, which is distracting. And this movie, I would really like to see with subtitles. It would probably feel like a different movie. But in any case, the dubbed version of Bumperkleef revolves around a family who are on their way to visit their grandparents when they encounter a psychopath who happens to be an exterminator. And this person is really hung up on social niceties, which is to say, being polite, not being pushy. And if you're not how he thinks you should be, admittedly, the world would be a better place if people were like this. But if you weren't acting in a fashion that this person thinks you should, he will potentially kill you, or at the very least, terrorize you. And so this family runs afoul of this person. And the bulk of Bumperkleef revolves around him chasing them on the freeway and through towns and so on. Part of the problem I have with Bumperkleef is that it's not a horror movie. Definitely not. There are horror overtones, but it's not a horror movie. It's a thriller. And in fact, it's more a dark comedy. Well, I should say it's a thriller, but it has horror and dark comedic overtones to it, which is interesting. Though I read on IMDb that this movie won some type of award in the Netherlands, supposedly I believe Best Film or something like that in 2019, which I think is amazing. If only because if it won Best Film in the general type sense, it makes me think that they don't produce many films in the Netherlands, because Bumperkleef is a lot of things, but the best film anywhere is highly doubtful, at least by my reckoning. And so that's a little bit strange for me. Another thing is that there are moments this movie is hilarious, and I don't at all think that that was the intention of the director, but there are just some moments that are really funny. For instance, there's a scene where the family is being pursued by this lunatic, and they're driving through this small town, more like a suburb really, of a major city. And everywhere there are people on bicycles, and this car is virtually running people down, which is odd because it makes me root for the killer. I understand the family are trying to get away from the killer, though the killer isn't virtually mowing down pedestrians. So it was kind of odd. In their effort to escape, it made me want them to be killed, because they were, in their own way, creating more damage than the killer would have. Another thing is that I mentioned earlier that the killer is an exterminator. And so he uses poisons to kill people, or to debilitate them, which is interesting. Now keep in mind, I live in the United States, not the Netherlands. So the idea that this guy's running around with an exterminator wand, it's connected to a tank which sprays the poison, is hilarious to me. If only because Americans are, or worse, very well armed in general. That this guy could do this and someone had not shot him at some point is just remarkable to me. And again, it adds to that darkly comedic aspect of the movie. This guy, transplanted to the United States, would not be easily, at any rate, able to do what he's doing because someone would have likely put a cap in his ass. It's a well-shot, interesting movie. But as I said, I really want to see the Danish version with English subtitles of Bumperkleef because I get the feeling that it's a much creepier movie than I saw. And I should mention, by the way, that Bumperkleef was remade in the United States as Unhinged in 2020, starring Russell Crowe. Look for a review sometime in the near future of Unhinged because I'm really curious of what the perspective will be of Bumperkleef from a more American point of view. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. And later this week, look for a review of Spider-Man: No Way Home.